Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Cindy Thompson,
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
and this week we have a very special guest with us. Um, I'm looking right at them. Mr. Special Guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. It's weird that I'm actually speaking English right now because that's not usually what I do, but it's me, Amphibian Man. You might know me from the 2017 critically acclaimed Guillermo del Toro film. That I won't name because it's Sydney's job to announce that this week. But I'm just really honored to be here.
It's The Shape of Water.
It's the shape of water.
The shape of
It
water.
felt like it wanted to be sung, you know. Did you guys also feel that?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, I
Also-
feel it.
I'm so glad we're doing this movie. I haven't watched this movie. I think I've only watched it once, and like right when it came out, I saw it in theaters, and then I just like kind of forgot about it a little bit, and I'm
It's
in
so
love.
good.
I'd never seen it
It's-
actually.
Ooh, what was it like on a first viewing? How did you feel?
It was beautiful. It was great. I mean, it's like they open up with the apartment full of water, and I love that visual of like submerged
Mhm.
ruins kind of thing.
Yes.
So very into it from moment one.
Really liked that statue of the goose that was floating around in there.
Her
Really
like
nice
Talk to
shoe
me
brush
about
goose.
goose
Yeah.
statues.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about your whole goose statue.
Don't talk to me about goose statues.
It was a brush. It was
Unless
a
you're
brush for
giving
shoe,
me
Sydney,
one.
don't worry.
Thank God.
It was a shoe
Okay.
brush.
But if you, like Chelsea, haven't seen The Shape of Water, or if
I've
you, like
seen it
me,
now.
hadn't seen it since forever, according to IMDb, uh, at the at a top secret research facility in the 1960s, a lonely janitor forms a unique relationship with an amphibious creature that is being held in captivity. And boy, a unique relationship surely describes it.
Yeah. Well,
This is
actually,
Guillermo's whole thing.
I would argue that that kind of relationship, tale as old as time, just between two unlikely pairs, maybe. But the relationship itself, that's a classic.
The relationship is easy, but the people and
The
creatures
elements make it
involved
tricky. Yeah.
make it unique.
It's so true. I love that we're doing this movie. I love that we're doing this movie also right after we did Nosferatu because the inspiration is like so like similar for both movies. Both are inspired by a film that came out in the first half of the 19th century. Wait, am I saying that right? Yes. This is the 21st century? The 20th
Yeah.
It was the
century?
20th
How does that work?
century.
The 20th century, the first half of the
Because
20th
the first
century.
century
I've never
was
understood
like
how that
year
works.
1 through 99. That was
Yeah,
the first
Okay,
so-
century.
that's why it's like
So
that.
if
Anyway,
it's like the
all I'm
1900s, it's the
saying,
20th.
Nosferatu is inspired by Nosferatu 1922 or whatever the fuck. And this movie is inspired by The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And both the directors, Robert Eggers and Guillermo del Toro, saw each respective movie at a super young, impressionable age and then never stopped thinking about it until they could make their own. And I think that slays. That's the other secret theme of this month. It's not just Monster Fucker February.
Childhood passion project.
The Childhood Passion Project from horror leaning
We've got
directors.
Werewolf vs. Vampire Seasonal Depression Event. We've got Monster Fucker May. We've got Egg 2 Weeks. We've got
We got Egg 2
Egg
weeks
2
for
weeks?
sure.
Egg
We
Week,
got-
Week Off, Week Back On.
Right?
You can't have too many egg movies in a row because
No, you gotta space them out with one episode in between.
Exactly.
Everybody knows that rule.
Especially
You gotta have
During
a
the
weird
bird
freaky
flu.
movie. in
and with the
between two
cost of eggs
movies.
these days. Okay, my friend posted something of eggs that were $11.50 for a dozen
That's insane.
in LA.
Those sound like gourmet. Where's she
Anyway.
at Erewhon?
No, this is my friend. It's Craig who made this. who made that beautiful
Ugh.
Spooky Tuesday carpet on the wall. He is
That
a
doesn't mean
frugal
he was not
man.
Erewhon.
He's a frugal man. He wouldn't do that. Well, the audacity of being like, look at the prices of eggs at Erewhon. You can't fucking do
They
that.
would be way
Anyway.
higher than that
Look.
also on a regular day.
I
Not
am
with-
sometimes
I'm
out
happy
here at Erewhon paying $13 for my watermelon water, but it is also this big, so
I've never
and like
been to
there's two
Erewhon, and I
watermelons
never
in here,
want to
I
go.
think.
Oh my god, I will pay $30 for a smoothie any day of the week.
Look, the chicken Caesar salad wrap is very good.
It is. It's also very
I'm
soothing.
not gonna go there. I'm gonna go.
All
with a
right, well,
Trader
you're
Joe's.
never gonna know the joy of little walk around the reservoir and then treat at Erewhon. That's
Exactly.
fine.
That's okay. I'll go to Trader Joe's, and then
Not the
I'm
same.
too
Not the
I'm
same.
too fucking
Good
cheap
luck
for that shit.
parking. Just kidding.
I park
Parking
at
is
the
equally
Gelsons.
difficult at both
I park at the
markets.
Gelsons every time. I did it today, and I got eggs at the Trader
Oh
Joe's
my
for
god.
$3.50. So
When I
yeah,
went to Trader
it's
Joe's last
still
time, they were
reasonable at
completely
Trader
out of
Joe's.
eggs. I had to go into the Gelsons to get the eggs.
Anyway,
But I
there's a
didn't pay
lot of
more than
egg
$7.
discourse
That's
going on
that's the
these
takeaway.
days, and it's being continued in the shape of water.
We
And
love
also, I
eggs.
didn't realize, like, politically how timely this movie would be, because I forgot about like anything beyond like the crux of the story, which is the romance. But this is saying so much more about like xenophobia and otherness, and like, people's on the fringe of
Solidarity.
society. Yeah, exactly.
Also,
And
like women's
it's
place.
no, totally. But that's the thing. It came out in 2017, which was when Trump was president the last
Mhm.
time. And like, I was reading all these articles, I read this one really, really good one. And Guillermo was like, I was thinking about Trump's America as I was writing this. Like, that is definitely, he was like, today, as of 2017, is the same thing as the 1960s, which is like the Make America Great Again thing is trying to be like a return to the nuclear family and that like militant normalness, you know what I mean? That was so
It's a
in
family
vogue.
restaurant.
Yeah, the nuclear family, everything like that, like being the stand-up man who's like can do no wrong. Like Michael Shannon's character feels the pressure to be, even though he's a cunt, and I can't wait to talk about him. But yeah, it's so fucking timely. I was like, woof, dude. And the Cold War.
Yeah. And Russia.
And fucking Russia.
Still
Yeah.
fucking dealing with.
It's crazy. It does
And
suck that this
space.
movie.
Fuck Elon Musk. Like
And space. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. But it was a good rewatch for that reason. And it was great to watch it again this time, not sitting next to my mom and dad.
Mm.
Because I watched this with my mom and dad, and it's like hard. It's like I was like so like a fish man and the woman are having a little sex. I love that. But then I was like, there's my mom and my dad right next. I was like, I'm
Oh,
not
no, I
ready to
can't
have this
enjoy-
conversation with them. They
I can't
didn't
enjoy
get it.
freaky fish sex. No.
Oh my god. But the other thing that was I thought really interesting about this was how not really totally a shoestring budget, but such an abridged budget that this movie had because of fucking Crimson Peak and how bad it tanked.
Mm.
Because Crimson Peak had like, don't quote me on this, but I think around like $50 million budget, and as we discussed 2 years ago on our episode, it fucking tanked because they described it as a horror movie. And that would be like calling this movie a horror movie. Sorry,
Yeah.
Spooky Tuesday, a horror
It's
movie
a monster
podcast.
movie, which is in
Oh.
our
It's
intro.
a monster movie.
It's in our
And
intro.
also,
We can
it's
do
our
whatever we want.
podcast. We can do whatever we
And it's
want.
Monsterfucker February, and she
And it's
fucks the
Motherfucker February.
monster. So
Exactly. So it must be done. And aren't you so happy?
and it's
I got
egg
so
every other week.
and it's egg every other week. And we had to do it. Come on. We make the rules and we enforce them.
The rules are there are no rules.
The rules are there are no rules. The rules are is we decide what the rules are and it changes every week. Anyway, what was the point of what I was saying? Oh yeah. Guillermo del Toro. Crimson Peak. It tanked so hard because they're like, this is a horror movie, and it's not. It was a gothic romance. And no one understood it, blah blah blah. So
I understood it.
I understood it as well. And talk about also horny things that are not accepted by society.
Mhm.
We already talked about that. Go back to our episode.
Moving
from
on.
that. Moving on.
Go listen to
But
that episode. Little shout.
it was hard to for Guillermo to like get this project
Rally
off
the troops
the
again.
ground. Yeah, because it is a similar, not exactly similar kind of story, but again, it's like a quote he was saying quirky story. Referred to it as a quirky love story.
That's
It's literally
exactly the word I would use.
Uh-huh.
He
it's very
got it.
quirky.
He
It
nailed it.
is. It's eccentric. But it's a monster fucker movie, and he wanted to create something that is like celebrating otherness and strange different types of romance or whatever. And so he had to have a really abridged budget, and it was like 19.3 million for this, which is significantly less than 50 million. And that's shocking to me when you see how gorgeous it is, especially because it's a period piece, and
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
period pieces are super more expensive and has all the underwater aspects to it,
Mhm.
the insane costuming and also the creature design for Doug Jones. But they had to do like a bunch of interesting stuff to make it work, and a lot of the underwater stuff wasn't underwater, which saved them a lot of
Oh.
money. But some of it was. So don't worry. It's not
Okay.
all smoke and mirrors.
Well, yeah,
But
because
yeah,
one of the first trivia pieces I read was like right after Sally Hawkins finished filming underwater scenes in this movie, she had to fly to London to film Paddington 2. And as soon as she got there, they revealed she would also be starting with underwater scenes for that movie as well.
oh, I have not
Paddington
seen
2, what a
Paddington
hit
2.
film.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it. I haven't seen Paddington 1 or Paddington 2.
Wow. And you call yourself a
I'm
film critic,
sorry.
Monica.
I know.
Paddington
I'm so
2's
sorry. I
weeks
haven't.
up so
I'm just
soon.
making my foray back into children's films because I've seen two of the animated films nominated this year. But I'm ready. I'm ready for Paddington 2. I think after 5 years on the pod, I'm ready for I'm ready for Paddington 2. Oh my god. But it's just so interesting to get into the mind of Guillermo del Toro because I think he has one of the most creative minds, I would say, of directors today. He's definitely up there in my favorites. He's right neck and neck with Robert Eggers, but Robert Eggers like recreates history to the nth degree with the unrivaled detail. Like Guillermo really like creates a whole new world for you to live in. Which is just so spectacular. Like this is such a fantastical like fairy tale story. It's beautiful. And even the horrible things happen, like damn, I want to live in this world for even longer than 2 hours.
Well, if you go back to the original fairy tales, a lot of them are pretty grim and dark and have horrible things happen
Totally.
in them as well. So it very much is like a callback. And I was looking for the genre on this movie somewhere, maybe on IMDb, just to see how they would describe it. And one of them was like dark fantasy fairy tale. So
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And it's interesting too that we're doing this right after we did My Animal, and that's the other egg movie too. So lots to think about there and to unpack later. Uh, but that movie had that Shelley Duvall's fairy tale theater Beauty and the Beast, and this is very much a Beauty and the Beast retelling as well. So I think that was pretty cool. But I just I also love that Guillermo like comes up with such a gorgeous vision and then he knows exactly who he wants to work with too. Like he never had anyone else in mind besides Doug Jones for the Amphibian Man.
As you
Because who
should.
could do it better?
yeah, I think IMDb trivia said like Sally Hawkins and Michael Shannon, like the roles were almost like written for them. Like he had them in mind from the beginning. He like cornered Sally Hawkins at an Oscars party or something when he was drunk one time and was like, "Let me tell you about this idea that I have." And he said being drunk was very much not helpful for that pitch because this is a movie that perhaps stretches your usual imagination a little bit, but I guess it must have gone pretty well. So
That's so funny. Yeah, I was one of these articles. I can't remember which one had so many great quotes from Guillermo del Toro, but this one was so funny because he said that he had Sally Hawkins in mind since as early as 2005, which is crazy. I think this is another one that he's been trying to make for years, and he had to like sit on it for a while. So again, similar to Nosferatu, the similarities are similarating. That's a word.
It's a clear
Anyway,
reference.
it's a clear reference. Um, but apparently he saw her in this BBC miniseries called Fingersmith, and I guess unfortunately, spoilers for Fingersmith ahead. But I'm reading this quote anyway. He said, "I thought that was done in a very matter of a fact way. Two women fall in love and they fuck. End of story. It's very
Wow.
natural." I love him.
Gotta put that
It
on
is
my
very
watch
natural.
list.
Right? Very
I was like,
natural.
whoa. But he just like waxes poetic about her too. He thinks that she has one of the most beautiful faces in cinema, but at the same time, it's like very accessible and relatable. And quote, you could believe her taking the bus. And yeah, she's so perfect in this role. I don't think I've really seen her in a lot of other things, but she is just so lovely. She just has such an expressive face.
Yeah, I mean, I think she is great in it. I also am not that familiar with her. I think I looked at her IMDb and I saw the Paddington movies on there, but nothing else immediately jumped out at me, at least. But I was wondering if she is disabled in real life, and she's not. And I did read some
Mhm.
people's like takes on this movie who have disabilities, and there's stuff in there to talk about, especially when we get to the song scene later. Um, but I do think with the role written with her in mind, she gave like an incredible, stunning performance.
It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
totally.
Like, so beautiful. The way that she could, like,
This very like
emote with her
delicate.
emote with her face, but also like you understood what they were saying to each other without saying anything. Also, like Octavia Spencer, I saw in the trivia thing where she said one of her favorite parts about Sally Hawkins' character being mute was that her character and her neighbor Guile,
Richard Jenkins' character,
yeah,
Giles.
Giles.
Giles, a black woman and a closeted gay man, got to do most of the speaking like for her throughout this movie, which would be like two things in the 60s that would just be like
You're not gonna
unheard
hear
of.
from him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so interesting having like the backdrop of the like racism of the 60s in there and then and of course the homophobia as well, like that one scene with Giles where he's rejected and that fucking pie man is being
Mhm.
hella racist at the same time. It was just so insane. But then also, I think one of the main things that Guillermo was trying to get across throughout this film is like the quiet moments of racism and prejudice that happen like every second. If you're a person who is othered in any sort of way, like this movie shows it from moment to moment. Like Michael Shannon's character Strickland is just spouting vitriolic bullshit crap every second to everyone and tearing everyone down every single second, and just it's so second nature to him that he doesn't bat an eye that he's the one in power, and he throws that shit around everywhere. Because like Guillermo was talking as like a person of color and a director, and how like in the 90s people would only give him like weirdly racially charged stuff to do, like movies about a matador or something like that, and it's just like, okay, like I'm not just that part of me, like just what the fuck. And I
Or like
think he did
some
a really good
experiences can
job.
be universal or shared,
Yeah,
even if they're not shared for the same reason.
exactly. No, totally. Oh, man.
I think one thing that I thought that was super interesting about that theme in this movie and that aspect of this movie is like the quiet moments of racism. You also see with Giles in particular the way that he's hesitant to really like put his neck on the line and to like reach out in a lot of different ways. There's that moment where
Mm-hmm.
they're like watching TV and the news about like civil rights protest comes on and he's like, "Ugh, click away. Like I don't want to see it."
Yeah.
And they move away from that. And at first he's like doesn't want to help with the fish man, and then he does when he has that moment where he realizes, I am part of this community that is not accepted. I am not one of the people who can like move easily through this world and just live as myself. That's when he really realizes like if nobody else is gonna stand up for us other than us, so I gotta get in
Yeah.
there.
And it's so interesting too because his character expresses so many regrets. And obviously, it's the 60s. I mean, it was very difficult to be an out gay man, but he's lived. I don't know if he's even like really acted on it. I'm not sure if he really ever has, but he seems to have so much regret to not have lived the
To the
experiences
fullest.
and like had the love that he was looking for that he couldn't attain. And so I think it's really interesting watching his character develop throughout the movie. He definitely has a little arc there. That's lovely.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I
I could
do
save this for How to Be Gay, but I definitely think in some previous war that he had to fight in because of the draft. He and a
Right.
fellow soldier had a
A
torrid love
tete-a-tete.
affair, but his either things just like didn't work out when they moved back home, or his lover never made it home, or
Oh my god,
now he's
that's
alone.
devastating.
Ugh.
I'll cry more. I had to keep my tears in my face because I look like this and I was like I'm not going to fucking cry and ruin it after all this pain.
Is that
The
why you
swim
texted
cap is
earlier and you
hurting
said you
me.
did your look too early?
Yeah, no, my head hurts so
Because the
bad right
crying
now.
came afterwards.
No, my like I have an active headache from the swim cap. So I'm trying to have
It's
thoughts, but my
understandable.
brain's being squished,
It's squeezed, yeah.
unfortunately.
Well, one thing
Yeah,
that I thought was great was the way that this movie really used color to show that they were also excited for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl.
They were like,
that's really
Eagles green,
beautiful.
Eagles green.
The Eagles won the 2017 Super Bowl, which is the year that this movie came out. And now we're doing it as they win again. So I just think that teal, blue, green color palette, it had something to say.
Wow, so astute, Chelsea.
Thank
Where do
you.
you get these beautiful ideas? That's so stunning. And that just happened, and now we're back. Something I just wanted to shout out before I forget. The music in this movie I thought was really, really, really great. Like like what was composed for it, the score. Excuse me, I forgot that word. And then also, what's it called? What is this? Sounds so stupid. What's it called? The person who chooses the songs that are in it that they didn't write.
Composer?
No, but does the composer do that? The like music
The composer
supervisor?
does the
Is that what it is?
score. I think music supervisor, probably.
Okay.
Who's to say? Who's to know?
I'm not
There's
sure,
sound
but
mixing,
anyway, the
there's sound editing, there's
composer.
score, etc., etc. There's so much
Yeah.
going on.
Well, I thought it's music supervision. It is what it is. That is what it is. I just couldn't remember the name of that thing. I wish that I could do that job, but I don't think I have the skills to pay those bills. That said, I think whoever the music supervisor was, slay. But the composer was Alexander Desplat. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he's one of my favorite composers. He does like almost all of the Wes Anderson movies. And so it was really cool to see him do this because I think he really nailed the like whimsy and emotion and all of that. I think that the score was really, really beautiful. And it helped paint the whole picture. But one other little oh sorry, you're gonna say something, Sid.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, because the music is like so beautiful and this movie is like so aesthetic and calming, I do believe this movie can go in the film of like soothing, calming movie to have on in the background while you're like doing
Yeah.
Aesthetic
things.
background film.
Yeah. Which
Mm-hmm.
like is such
This
a
would be
compliment too.
this would be a great movie to have on at a party with the sound off
Mm-hmm.
too. Sorry, the music is so good, but like just like us like from a visual perspective, just at all my parties I have movies playing at
She
all times
does.
and then music playing at the same time. So this would be another one to set a very specific vibe, but a fish sex vibe is always a good vibe. Just saying.
We're doing a
Can't really go
sushi
wrong.
party at the house.
That would be so fun. Oh my god. Also, okay, just like the cast in general for this movie is so fucking good because I forgot. Oh my god. Double wonderful thing. Sorry. I just love Michael Stuhlbarg. Is that how you say it? He plays the Russian spy,
Bob.
Hofstadter or whatever.
Dimitri.
Dr. Robert Hofstadter. Um, but he is also the dad from Call Me by Your Name. Who's
Oh.
just so incredible in that role, and so I always love him for that. And he's also in Bones and All because Luca Guadagnino, I can't say it unless I look at it. He
Barnino.
yeah, he and Michael are little homies. I think that him and Michael are like Willem Dafoe and Robert Eggers. They're like
Huh.
that man, that middle-aged man is my
Is my
muse because he's in
muse.
like all of Lucas films. Because he's in Call Me by Your Name, which was him, and he was in Bones and All. It was like some random freak cannibal character, but also
Oh, he might have
important.
been like the cop or the
He's the guy in
cop's
the
friend.
RV. He was like one of the he was one of the guys who I think he's one of the guys, they meet up with those two kind of wild and crazy cannibals when they're
Yeah.
camping. He's one
What's
of
the cop and
those.
the cop's
And-
friend?
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't remember him being a cop.
One of them is, and then one of them, the cop is not an eater. He just eats for fun.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that. Anyway, love
So
that
he must be
movie.
he must
But
be the cop then, because the other guy didn't look like this, I don't think.
I
Doesn't matter.
think he might be the other guy, but I'll look it up later and I'll tell you shortly. I'm gonna look at the photos from his IMDb
Yeah,
It
yeah,
while
actually
I
does
talk.
matter, Chelsea. It really matters.
Well, good thing I'm scrolling his IMDb pictures right now.
Me
I guess
too,
you should
me
go
too.
to Bones and All. That would be a better, more direct route.
Yeah, no, that would have been smart too. But I think his character is so interesting. Like just the whole setup for this movie, like the fact that like our main character is like a night janitor at a top secret government warehouse.
Right? Because
Um,
only women clean, that's their place.
Classic,
of
classic.
course,
Yeah.
of course.
And they have to do it in their
But
little heels.
And they're like cute little
yeah,
outfits.
oh my God, Octavia Spencer's so fucking funny in this movie. She's literally the funniest bitch in the entire world. All of her dialogue is so spectacular. All of her shit talking of Brewster. Fuck Brewster. What a little bitch.
Fucking
Oh,
What a
Brewster.
goddamn bitch.
men ruin
He sucks so
everything.
bad. Literally. I was like, I already knew you suck, but then like you came on the camera on the
And
screen for 1
immediately
second
suck.
and you just had to be even worse than anyone could ever imagine.
Update for you, by the way. He
um,
does play the freaky other guy, not the cop.
Yeah, I remember him looking freaky and having crazy long hair or something.
Mhm.
He's a chameleon, and that's what I love
He
about
is.
him.
I didn't
He
know.
is. No, he literally is.
Also,
Um,
every time we do a movie with Octavia Spencer in it, I will remind the people that she, in fact, went to Auburn. So, War Eagle.
oh,
Wow.
okay,
That's our girl.
that was the little like shock surprise sound I made 5 seconds ago because Michael Stuhlbarg went to UCLA, and I was like, slay,
I mean, God, you guys
fellow
have such good
Bruin.
representation. This movie takes place in Baltimore, which is where I went to college.
There's a
Look at
connection
us, look at
to
us.
And look
colleges all
This
over
movie
the
was
at
town.
like made for us.
Whoa, so insane. But okay, the piss talk from from Zelda is the so fucking funny. Just so interesting. It's like, oh, it's these fucking genius men and they can't even piss in the fucking urinal. How did they get it on the
Brewster could do
ceiling?
it 70% of the time.
Men should sit down to pee. That's my.
Men should sit down to pee. And I have heard men who've been like, okay, I gave in and I started sitting down to pee. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Your floors are disgusting. Don't come into my house and make my floor disgusting too.
They don't leave the seat up if they pee if they pee sitting down. I'm just
Just
saying.
tuck it down. It's fine. First of all,
Yeah.
You'll
everybody loves to
manage.
sit down for a minute. You can scroll your
Take a
phone.
break.
Take a load off, honey.
And I don't know what men do when they have to pee when they're standing and then realize they also have to poop, but that sounds like a complicated procedure.
right?
you're
you gotta sit
already
down
sitting,
anyways.
I
That's
thought
gonna be
about
more
this a lot,
convenient.
actually. I
Sometimes
don't
you
know
get
why I haven't
surprised when
asked
you go to
Adam
the
about this
bathroom.
directly. Yeah.
Right? And it just happens. Surprise
So
poops,
I need
baby.
I need
Make a
men to
goddamn lick of
in their
sense.
5-star review at the end of this episode. I need you guys to tell us what happens when that
Weigh
happens to
in.
you.
Yeah. Wait, the people us want to know.
Oh my god. Oh, also, okay, sorry that I'm jumping all around, but this is something that I really wanted to note. I really love that the eggs and the eroticism are tied together so clearly in just the very opening part of the film, where she's like, okay, I need to get my eggs going. I need to get them hard boiled, and
Mhm.
I need to come in the amount of time
I
it
need to
takes for them
take
to
my
hard
leg,
boil.
slap it on the side of the tub. The way she,
So,
ugh, I love
Right?
that.
She flops it
yes,
over like a
Hunks it up
fish.
there, yeah.
I love it.
But
And
also,
also, the,
good for her. She should do it in the
Good
morning.
for her.
yeah.
Start your day
Well,
off
I think
right.
Guillermo included that because he wanted it to be clear that, like, yes, this is like a fairy tale story, but she's no fucking princess. You know, this isn't like gonna be as
She is
sanitized as a
furiously
Disney
masturbating in the
princess.
tub.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she is.
exactly. And I think it's interesting that she's masturbating like in the water because she obviously has this like not ever really totally explained connection to the water which is tied to her mysterious background that is
Right.
like throughout the film because she has those three
Scars.
scars on either sides of her neck and she was found on the bank of a river or something. She's an orphan and she could never speak. And they think it's because of those scars. Suspicious.
Where did she come from?
Where did she come from? The sea. Oh man. But yeah, there's just so many different things going on in this. I just forgot about like the Cold War, the fucking racism going on, the homophobia, just like all on top of each other. And meanwhile, there's this incredibly sexy fish man that comes to
Man.
town.
And he's tall.
He's very tall.
And he's
He's
really
so
tall.
tall. He's like
I just
really tall.
He's really tall. Okay, well, listen to this. You're gonna love this. Guillermo, being the little cutie freak that we know so well, he was 6 years old when he saw a creature from the Black Lagoon, like I said, and he said, "quote I remember seeing the creature swimming under her, the lead actress Julie Adams, and I thought it was a beautiful image, and I hoped that they would end up together, but they didn't." And so I was like, from 6 years old, he was like,
He knew.
"Let's." True love is true
Let
love,
them
and
fuck,
and
yeah.
that's what matters. Love is love. Yeah, he's from moment one. That's where he's been at, and I love that so much for him.
I think
And
we
he's
must have talked
actually
about
like
that on our creature in the black of the from the Black Lagoon episode.
we
We did
talked
that
a little
movie.
bit about The Shape of Water. Yeah. Wait, what?
So go listen to that episode too.
Yep. The
That's on my
inspiration.
prop.
Perfect.
My
I love that bag.
My beautiful bag. I still haven't gotten to wear it. I have a whole outfit planned
Of course
to
you
wear
do.
this purse.
Is it this?
I do. Well, besides this, I would change the pants so I wouldn't be wearing my
Mm.
Twilight
No, I think the
sleeping
Twilight
pants.
No, I
sleeping
think
pant
that
really
Twilight
add to it.
adds. Yeah, it's giving monster fucker.
Yeah.
That's true,
giving
but I'm a
romance.
fashionista at heart and I have cunty green go-go boots that would really go well with this.
Tuck the
And I
PJ
have
pants in.
a purple mini skirt that would match the purple in the purse. Anyway, so that's what I will be
I feel
wearing.
like she doesn't
Anyway,
want to collaborate with us, Sydney, but that's
I'm-
fine.
I know.
I have
She
my
hates
own
us.
vision that I've been thinking about for years and I'm not taking feedback at this time. By years, I mean 6 months. That's as long as I've had that purse.
Monica, was it had to have been you because I don't know who else I would have gone with. But when it was what LACMA and they had the Guillermo del Toro exhibit and they had like all the costumes and stuff.
Yeah.
And they had
Yeah. I went to that.
like,
Yeah. I also went to a
had
Tim
to have
Burton
been
one, so
you.
that's why I'm getting confused. And they're both at LACMA. So it's
but
kind
like
of
they had the monster like stuff. They like put it on like a
Yeah,
dummy and stuff
his-
so you could like see it.
the
And they had
suit.
all the Crimson Peak outfits and like all the stuff and like parts
Ooh.
of the set. It was so incredible that they should bring it back. I want more. I want to go again.
Oh my God, I would go immediately again and again. But yeah, apparently he's been bringing this to life in different ways, like throughout his filmography. Because I forgot he did Hellboy, and so
Oh my
apparently in
god.
Hellboy 2, there's like a princess and an amphibian man kind of thing happening.
Telling
I
on
haven't seen Hellboy
himself.
2. Uh-huh. And then now he finally got to do it all the way. But I'm trying to find this one other quote. Hold on. I'm gonna look up a very important word and it's gonna lead me to right to it. Yes. He for the creature design, Guillermo really wanted to. I just love saying the name Guillermo. I could call him by his last name, but I'm not going to. Was determined to accentuate the physical properties of this amphibian man, make him very humanoid and attractive. So this is a quote. He said, I wanted him to look beautiful in a slim, slender way. The female inhabitants of my house would rate the designs, and they were an expert panel of judges. We were evaluating the shoulders to butt ratio. I wanted him to have a bullfighter silhouette, not too bulky. I wanted an intelligent, beautiful, compact creature. So, I mean, that's why it's Doug Jones, because he's Mr. Slender Man himself.
Mhm.
Well, that's why I also
but
thought it was so interesting that you mentioned earlier that he was only offered like Matador roles because apparently Doug Jones, his performance was very much based on like Matador posture. It was very like leading with the
yeah,
Mhm.
hips,
I
it said.
yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, oh,
And there's a picture of
okay.
a
Well, he does
Matador
like
in
some Matador things.
Dimitri
Yeah, that makes
Hofstetler's
sense.
apartment.
Interesting. Well, he wants to include matadors when he chooses to, not being forced by the studio to do it. You
Yeah.
know.
It's his
And
choice.
I mentioned this in our pre episode chat, but there's also a quote from Guillermo del Toro being like, "I wanted to make sure that he had incredibly kissable lips."
As he should.
Important.
Yeah, and he really did. He had incredibly kissable lips. The costume design was crazy. But yeah, I mean, like that whole suit was so insane. It took 3 hours to put on Doug Jones every day, an hour to take off, and it was a combination. It was like a foam suit mostly with like silicone additions to it, and then there's also like like what am I trying to say? Animatronic. Sorry, I couldn't remember that word. Like animatronic aspects of it to make part of it move. So it just kept getting like fucked up every day because he would go
Mm.
in the water every day and the electrical would get fucked up every day. And by the end of it, like the adhesive that they were trying to use to like glue him in, like wouldn't work in the water. So they would have to fucking sew Doug Jones into his outfit and then like sewing it sometimes didn't work, so they were like jerry rigging shit. They were like zip tying him in and doing all of this
Damn.
stuff.
They
Like
got
they
the
tried to
hot
use
glue in a
snaps. You
dream.
can't use snaps because of the water. Yeah, exactly. They're just like it was a little slapdash because they didn't have $1 million billion. They just had $19.3 million. So they had to get creative with it. And luckily Doug Jones is really good at doing exactly this type of work. He is the official man of being in full body prosthesis for hours at a time. Um, but yeah, he also was like just him doing it most of the time. They had some stuntman stuff, but it was just Doug all all the time. Just him. So he was
It's
really
just
going through in it for this role. But it paid off.
Potato?
It paid off.
I liked when after the first bathroom scene when they have the piss all over the floor conversation and Michael Shannon comes in and he's such a little bitch. But I like when
Like
she
sexual assault, then assault harassment to have to pee in front of them too,
yeah,
by
let
the
me just
right.
way.
whip my dong out. And then when she was remarked about him peeing with his hands on his hips, I did love that. I thought that was funny.
That was hilarious.
Um But that he leaves like the little blood spots behind from his cattle prod on the sink, and then they like go to be like, what's going on in there? And then his fingers get chopped like right after that bit. He's so deserving of his fingers getting chopped, and then as they get like more necrotic over the course of the film, take that bitch.
Yeah. No, there's in one of these articles they're like, oh yeah, it's like his character is rotting as he like gloms on to like
Mm.
this like patriarchal view of the world and like his power and like I think they said something like about his like fascist approach to like being normal and not outside of like what is expected of a man who's the head of the nuclear family in the 60s. um but like as he like strives to hold on to that, he's literally rotting away, like literally, which I thought was a cool analogy, a literal analogy. But I love that he was so pissed because there's mustard on his fingers. Without her, he wouldn't have any fingers at all. Okay, a little mustard never hurt anyone.
Can we talk about how he treats his wife?
The way he met a woman who can't speak and immediately went, "Oh, that's
Oh, that's
my
exactly
dream.
what
I
I
wish
want.
no woman could ever say shit to me." Like,
That made me
I
go
so
to the doctor.
I forgot about that aspect of this film, and I was like, "Bleh."
that made me, as a mouthy woman myself, like that made
We
me
have a podcast.
I talk in my sleep. Just like, no. What do you mean?
What do you mean?
So
Outrageous.
sickening.
But her
And he's
also
bleeding on her fucking
I
face
know.
too. Ugh, blah.
but her like what, like the kids go to school and she's just like, okay, let's go upstairs. Like she's like, this is a role that I know that I have to do. Like I was just like, I was
I'm
so
so
mad at the
sexually
whole,
available to
Scheduled.
him all
right?
the time.
And then I just have to shut up and be quiet and lay here and definitely not have an orgasm because who cares
Like, I
about
get
me?
fucked. Yeah. Something
Ugh.
that that always stuck with me from The Handmaid's Tale when I read it in high school is the line about how like the handmaids are not having sex with the patriarchs of the families they're staying with. They're just like lying there getting fucked.
Mhm.
Like they're not fucking, they're just getting fucked. And that always
Ugh,
resonated and like
Yeah, there's a
that's
difference.
exactly what's happening here. Yeah, she's
100%.
I mean, she is like, trying to seduce him because again, that is her role. She's whipping her tit out and being like, "What if you bought a Cadillac?"
Right?
But I mean, obviously, I love that part. But then when she's upstairs and she's like trying to engage him, like Richard, Richard, and he's just like, "Shh, like, don't do that."
She's like, you're bleeding on me.
Yeah. And then later when
Yeah.
he's sexually harassing slash assaulting Sally Hawkins's character, and he's like, "Oh, I bet I could make you squawk. I make my wife squawk." And I was like, "No, you don't.
You
You
really
don't
don't
make your
at
wife. I
No,
saw
you
all.
you with
don't.
your
You
wife.
like
You do not make her
categorically do
squawk.
not.
I don't believe you. You're a liar."
He's definitely a liar. It's so satisfying though, this movie, because he is so awful and so villainous, like a hyperbole of a villain. It's like a caricature of a villain. It's crazy how obviously bad he is. And then he just gets like fucking taken down on every single level throughout the film. And it's so cathartic to watch his just everything he cares about be stripped away from him slowly. It's like, yes, bitch, die. At least for me.
No, it's great, but it's so frustrating to see him like wielding the power he has over people below him and then to reveal that like he is just a middleman. The general is
Uh-huh.
above him and the general can come in and stomp him whenever. Don't bite the head off that cat, Monica.
Yeah. No, 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 no,
Um,
no, no. We don't
leave
play with
leave
the
her
cuties.
alone. Just a wild man.
The look on her face right then. Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that he's just a small link in the chain is part of what's crazy. And it's so frustrating. And it, like, this is not directly comparable, but it really makes me think about when they're like, well, we don't want the Russians to get the fish monster, so we'll just fucking destroy it if we can't figure out what
Yeah.
to do with it. It's better to have
Destroy
it
this
be
magical
destroyed
being.
than there being even a slim chance that somebody else might find it and profit off of it or whatever. It just makes me think of like when stores are like getting rid of stock items or whatever, when they're just like, we're
Yeah.
not keeping these things on the shelf anymore, and they just like
And so they break it.
destroy them and put them in the
Yeah.
dumpster so nobody could possibly use them, or like the way that they'll get rid of old food instead of like donating what could be perfectly still usable items to people. Like it's
No.
Which pisses me off so bad. I
it
want to
is
go
like the
fucked up.
dumpster diving
competitive
so bad.
nature. Yeah, it's
I've done
not
it
just
before.
like capitalism in this movie, although that's what it is with like stores and stuff.
Yeah.
But the if I can't have it and if I can't win, nobody gets to progress societally at all. Like that's crazy.
Also, like, of course I don't condone them keeping the fucking beautiful amphibian man like caged up. But also, like, that amphibian man could have like cured all of the diseases of the world and all of
He
the
could have
ailments of the
fixed
world, and they were
him.
just gonna
balding
fucking kill
men.
them. Yes, he brought back his hair. Oh my god! But
Just
back to what you
one.
were saying for like 5 seconds ago, Chelsea, about like the reveal that he's just middle management and how frustrating it is. But that's why he is the way that he is,
Mhm.
because
I have
he's
to get my
getting
power
fucked
from
around by
stomping other
someone
people.
else. So he has to put people down to feel good about himself because that's the way that his sick mind works. And I unfortunately know so many people who are like that. And it doesn't make sense to me as a way to live, to like create more, like you're having a bad time, so you make everything worse for everyone else so you can be the one controlling the bad time. Like it's
If I'm having a bad
a
time, everybody else is
shocking.
having a bad time.
It's so selfish, but it's just about power. It's just about that feeling of like I don't know, I'm thinking of Dragon Ball Z when they
When they go Super Saiyan
uh,
mode.
when they go Super Saiyan. Yeah. It's like that. To put it in a beautiful
To go
just
back to
really
our
gorgeously thought out
anime
way. Yeah.
references from Splice, which
Right.
was another Guillermo del Toro production.
It's just
So
so
fucking funny.
interconnected.
This whole month.
I'm so mad because I didn't actually put my eyes upon Adrian Brody the day after the Splice episode. Physically, I worked an event where he was there and he won Best Actor and he didn't come back to the press room. And I was like, "No.
Wow.
I
He should
need
have
you
come
to come
directly
back
over
here
to
so I can
you
look at
and
you
said,
and
"This is because I
think
did
some
Splice."
Splice."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Splice 2 coming soon because
I
I'll
could have
probably win an
said a
Oscar.
question to the press room interviewers, be like, "Ask him about Splice."
Nice.
When he's
Ask
doing
him
press
about
for the
how his
Brutalist.
work on Splice prepared him for this role.
Do you think
Could have
you
just
will do
pretended
Splice
to
2?
be. Technically, I am from a media whatever.
A media source.
This is a media source, Spooky Tuesday
We're
media
media.
source. I could have just.
This is media.
We do interviews. We go to events.
Yeah, I didn't get to have that experience, but Jeff Goldblum did wink at me, and my panties dropped. Literally, I didn't think that was a real thing.
Oh no, it
That's
But
happened.
crazy.
yeah,
She was wearing pants,
I
but
almost
they just
passed out.
snaked down one pant
They,
leg.
they fell out on the red carpet in the middle of me working. It was very inconvenient. So
You just gotta
thanks,
pick
Jeff
them back up.
Goldblum. Anyway, he's everything you thought he would be. It's
Of
more,
course he is. He's perfect.
just in case you wanted to know. But anyway, this movie that we're talking about, The Shape of Water, which weirdly doesn't have Jeff Goldblum in it, which I think is one of the only things that is a drawback of the film, but it's okay. Um, I think that like we talked about this for a second, but I just want to talk about Giles for one more second because
Yeah.
I do love his character so much, and like the acute pain that he experiences in that scene when he realizes that the like object of his affection, Pie Man, is literally putting on a character to talk to him, and he already had
Mhm.
told him that, but he still like really thought it was real. And it's just so hard to see, like, there's that scene later on when he's actually interacting with the amphibian man, and he's like, I think the two of us are relics.
Mm-hmm.
um and that's such a interesting part of the movie because yeah, it's so hard. He's a print media artist, like, or a print ad artist, and now it's the age of the photos, so his
He's
work
being made
is
redundant by
no.
new technology.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then like I don't know, sort of like his own lifestyle is doesn't work for him anymore because he's realized that he's a queer man and he hasn't been expressing it, but he cannot find a place where he can express that because it's not allowed at all. So it's so
Mhm.
interesting him being like out of time, like not like out of time like he's gonna die, like out of time like he isn't in the right time and he's too late for one thing and he's too early for another, which is his sexuality. It's so interesting. And then the amphibian man, of course, is literally a god. And so he's beyond time and he probably can
Uh,
travel through it.
I love the way that they bring like mystical, magical like elements into this because like you're kind of not expecting it a little bit. Know what I mean? Like I completely forgot. I was like, oh, Fishman has magical powers where he can heal and regrow your hair and he lights up blue.
I love the lights. I really
The
liked
lights were
that aspect of it.
so beautiful.
That was part of the electrical that was in the suit because
Mm.
they wanted like there's a quote that was like the best acting is reacting, and so they wanted Sally Hawkins to be able to like react to that happening
In
for the
real
first
time.
time. Yeah, so they had the little lights in there, which is so beautiful, and I think it's so cool that it's like part of the intimacy scene, like him lighting up as
And
Mhm.
they're like,
he touches her. I just thought that was so well done.
And their intimate scenes are just like this movie is just like so beautiful and so romantic.
Yes, because
Like,
like they had to they had to draw, like walk such a tightrope walk. I don't know,
mhm.
a line. They had to walk this line to not go like too freaky bestiality because that would gross people out, and it wouldn't have gotten nearly as much of the Oscar buzz as it did. We'd still like it,
Yeah,
but
Seth
the
Rogen?
average
they weren't
viewer,
showing dick, but they did answer our question about how it works that we
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
had.
yeah, yeah. They
I
gave us
love.
the breakdown.
They were like,
Um,
and then whoop.
but there is an IMDb trivia entry that says, according to Seth Rogen on the Van Helsing episode of How Did This Get Made podcast, he drunkenly told Guillermo del Toro at a party that if the amphibian man had shown his penis, it would have been, quote, the best movie of the year. But del Toro disagreed. So he, like
It's
Monica, loves to keep it modest, and keep the cloaca off screen,
Of
which,
course.
I can certainly
save
understand.
that for
But
when
yeah,
you've
I love
earned
that
it.
they address that, and I loved that Octavia Spence's character immediately was like, "You fucked him? How? Okay, like,
Tell me.
give me the deets, girl."
They're also supportive. They get on the train real quick because they love their girl Elisa or Elisa. How do you ever you say her name? I
Eliza.
don't know.
Mhm.
Eliza. My cat's attacking me. She knows I'm gonna eat her head off later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's
Mm-hmm.
is picking up the vibe.
Yeah.
I also love we were talking about how Strickland is such a little bitch ass. And it's just so incredible to me that like literally like three fucking randos and like 1 second of help from a Russian sleeper spy were able to break this creature out of a top high security government agency building. Like it's just so
Listen,
funny to me.
it
And
was the
they're like, we
60s.
need to
They
know the
didn't
team.
have the same kind
My
of
conservative estimate is a 10-man strike team at least.
It's so funny. And oh my god, when Hofstetler is later being executed unfortunately and then found out by Strickland, that part was so fucking brutal. I forgot cuz like Guillermo del Toro, he's not been doing a bunch of like horror movies lately, as you know, but I forgot how fucking graphic the gore is with him when he
yeah.
does do it. There's that one part in Pan's Labyrinth. I don't remember the context, but there's like one of the more war-y parts of it because there are war parts. Um, so fucking graphic. It like really fucked me up because I saw it at a young age and it like I was literally horrified. But like this shot in fucking Hofstetler's mouth and he picks him up through the hole in his
Hooks him.
mouth. Oh my
Hooks him
god.
like a fish.
He do-
Mhm.
oh. Ooh, the themes, they're theming. That's
I
so good. And all
love
the yeah,
do you
Hofstetler
remember
kills that guy also, by the way.
Slay? Um, do you remember when we used to one of our things a bazillion years ago, haven't done it recently, was it all comes back to Finding Nemo. I did think about that when she's
No.
Yeah,
tapping
I
on the
don't remember that
glass.
either.
Well, I remember it when she's tapping on the glass the first time. I was like, they don't like that, but it did agitate him, but then it
Are
also
you
became
sure
kind of their
that's
thing.
our podcast or
No, it's
some
my
other
other
podcast member?
podcast.
You've been a guest on other podcasts.
No, it was ours, and there was one Final Destination one where she goes to the dentist, Final Destination 5 perhaps. And I did a whole shot for shot comparison with the scene from Finding Nemo. So
Oh my god. Stop. My cat is literally attacking me so much right now. She's just like
She's
scratching my
terrified.
arms. I'm
Also,
not gonna eat you.
in unrelated news, the bad guy in this movie is named Richard Strickland, and I
Mhm.
grew up with a kid named Richard Strickland.
oh.
Was he a bitch?
No, he was very nice and adorable. He had red
Oh,
hair.
okay. Oh, well. So sorry for him that his exact first and last name were used.
I know.
That's
Those are
rather
like pretty
unfortunate,
common,
I would
I
say.
bet.
True. But it
So
was
true.
jarring
Mm.
nonetheless.
Oh, this was an interesting part of this movie. Let's see if I can find it. One part of this movie that I thought was so whimsical, magical, wonderful, 10 out of 10 was the fact that they lived on top of a movie theater
Oh,
and
yes,
that
I
you can
love that
hear
too. And
the
when they flood the
movies.
bathroom and it's like dripping down.
And it
Oh, I
had
love the
four
flood the
patrons
bathroom
and he had to
scene.
refund them all.
And one of them was sleeping with his
So
mouth wide open. Just
their
dripped
sex
in
bath
the
water
back of
just
his
went into
throat.
his mouth, but that's fine. Everybody's so sex positive in this movie too, like the friends. Like when Giles like busts through the door and all the water comes down and
He's
they're
like,
just like
uh.
naked hugging. He's like,
Right?
"Aw,
And
I
then he
love
draws
that
that
for
later.
you."
I love that you're
Yeah.
fucking a fish man.
I love that you're fucking a fish man. He was much more forgiving than I would have been. What are you doing? What are you eating? My cat's being a menace
Classic.
to society.
Classic
Sorry.
cat.
He's literally
Classic.
eating
Look at her.
nothing to eat. What are you doing? Like, oh my god. Okay, I'm so sorry. I saw I could see it in front of me and I was like, bitch. I would be a lot more upset if my
About the
cat's
water
head got
damage?
eaten off. Pandora.
Oh,
No, Pandora, the cat getting her head eaten off. I would be more upset
yeah.
than Giles was.
Yeah.
But he was so understanding. Maybe he kind of hated that cat.
I mean,
Right.
it wasn't until that scene that I even realized that Giles had cats. Like maybe they had been featured earlier, but
They
so
were
I
like in
think
the
it was,
background.
yeah, it was easy to not be attached to the cat ahead of time. So that helped as an audience member. But I also think, there's some blame there that he holds for himself where he was like, I tried to stay up as long as I could, but I was the one who was supervising and fell asleep. And so, and he has that whole thing where he's
And
like,
he's
he is a wild animal. So, like, he couldn't
yeah.
have been expected to, there are
No.
instincts that come into play, and he's never come across this
Mhm.
creature before. And now that they've
He was hungry.
become accustomed to each other, he's cool with the other cats. So, that's good.
It's fine. They learned something. It's so beautiful. Um, but with the movie theater thing, just to go back to that really quickly, there was a movie that was playing. It was on the marquee at the beginning, and so it's the movie that they have. They have two movies. They have The Book of Ruth and Mardi Gras, which I don't know anything about Mardi Gras, so we won't be talking about that. I know a little thing about The Book of Ruth, but there's like themes in that movie that are applicable to this movie, which whoa, I'm so surprised that that was a meaningful choice. It wasn't
Whoa,
just something
what?
random. What do you mean? It wasn't just like, oh, I closed my eyes and I picked out a list. Um, but there was like this very interesting, I don't know exactly the plot of this movie, but there's basically this
Do you want me to read the IMDb trivia?
storyline where, huh?
Do you want me to read it from IMDb trivia?
I mean, sure, if you want to. I was just going to read a quote from it that's
Okay,
applicable.
go for it.
But yeah, basically it's about like this woman Ruth, and she has this like very intense scene with her Jewish mother-in-law Naomi, and this is after Ruth's spoiler alert for Book of Ruth. Sorry. Ruth's husband has since passed, and so she has this like emotional scene with her husband's mother. Um and it's kind of about her like Ruth taking on and I think converting to Judaism. Um, that's what I'm getting from it. But anyway, just the words in and of themselves are very applicable to the movie, so I'll read the quote. But it says, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you." And it's also apparently a familiar reading at weddings, that quote.
It's also in fried
But
green tomatoes.
Oh no way!
Mhm.
Interesting. But yeah, it's very. I feel like it really applies to the relationship between Elisa or Eliza. Sorry, I keep saying her name wrong. Eliza and the amphibian man, because she like in the end is kind of like I will leave my world behind and join yours. And so I thought that was a cool little. I love when there's a movie inside the movie and it makes sense, just like
Yeah.
with
Right.
my animal.
It's like a fun little Easter egg.
It
Mm-hmm.
is
That was a
precisely.
very like in the plot reference. If you want a slightly more zoomed out, that also is pointing out similarities. IMDb trivia says the story of Ruth features a plot taken from an apocryphal version of the biblical story of Ruth, where the female protagonist is given up as a child, raised to be a priestess to pagan gods until she meets an outsider with different values and a belief in one true God. They fall in love but are persecuted and he is imprisoned, and she makes a failed attempt to free him. An interesting mirror to hold up to this story. So
Oh
definitely
wow, that is
seems.
really interesting. There's a
Also,
lot.
speaking of movies within the movies or just media within the media, I texted you earlier that there's a Scooby Doo Easter egg in here. If you know where
Oh
to
yeah,
look,
what was
did you see
it?
it?
Uh-uh.
Oh, was the show that they were watching the show that inspired Scooby Doo? The show that Michael
Yeah,
Shannon was
the
watching?
Lives of Dobie Gillis or whatever that show was.
Oh,
Okay.
As soon as
cool.
he popped up, I was like, "That's Shaggy."
Oh my god, that's so funny. I love it. It's all
I was
coming
like, I'm
together.
so glad we just talked about that 5 seconds ago on our Scooby Doo episode, or I wouldn't have known what I was looking at, and now I do.
That's
The
awesome.
many
I wish I
loves of
had paid more
Dobie
attention to that
Gillis.
part.
Maybe I'll do a social post if I remember.
That's awesome. Okay, we've jumped all over the town. Do we want to talk more about the end or what are we feeling?
One more thing about the theater, just that's like a fun
Yeah,
fact from
yeah.
IMDb trivia. When they screened this movie at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, they screened it in that theater where they filmed. So they
Oh,
were
I love
Oh.
in that
that.
theater watching that movie on that screen. So just a little fun thing.
That's so cute. I love it. Any Easter egg in and of itself. It's meta. I don't know. This this swim cap's really squeezing my brain at this point.
Well, before we
uh,
talk about the very end, I do want to talk about the dance song
oh
scene.
my
Yeah.
god, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, please.
Um, I do want to say I think it is beautiful and wonderful. I did read some articles about it to circle back to that point from earlier, and I also have my own notes. Um, but as I was watching, as soon as she started to talk, I was a little bit like, I wonder how people in the disability community felt about this, because that's one of those things that often gets frowned upon when someone who is disabled kind of has like a dream sequence where they're not disabled. Um, and I'm sure there are some people who are disabled who like felt very represented by that, like this idea of like, what if I was different? What if I wasn't an outsider? What if I could express myself in a way where I feel hindered? Um, but there were two articles that I read that I'll link from disabled people who like scene just kind of rubbed them the wrong way because they're like,
That's
well,
totally
I don't
fair.
wish that I wasn't disabled. I'm very happy with myself as I am. It's kind of um It makes me think of the scene from The Family Stone. Have you seen that movie?
I haven't.
Well, it's perfect. You should see it. But there's like a scene at dinner where Sarah Jessica Parker's character is like, well, you don't really want your child to be gay, right? Like, why would you want that? And
No,
she's
I
coming at
actively
it from
do.
a
I
perspective
actively
of like,
want my child to be gay.
right. Well, that's
Just
what
to be
Diane
clear.
Keaton says she wants. But Sarah Jessica Parker's character is kind of coming at it from a perspective that she is not articulating well of like, why would you want your child to have a life where they're facing any adversity that maybe you could avoid if you were different? And that I think is kind of the dialogue that people are having here, where it's like this dream of being different rather than embracing your differences or saying I still have value and maybe my differences are part of my value. But so the fact that she spoke was a takeaway, and some people like kind of objected to the premise in general that, and I kind of disagree, but I can't speak for the disabled community. I'm not part of it. But they objected to the premise that the only love story we see in media that features a disabled female protagonist is one where she falls in love with a monster, which like further separates her from being human and being able to be loved by humans. Again, I'm not gonna dispute that read. I think that's really valid if
I
they
get
feel
that,
that
but
way.
also,
But yeah, I think in the context of this movie, I think it's one of those things where it's like, were there a wealth of movies, there would be nothing wrong with this movie. But if it's the only one, I see the
yeah,
criticisms.
yeah.
Um, but I did think it was interesting, an interesting choice to have her sing in that scene because she's doing her little taps throughout the whole movie. You know what I mean? It could have just been, she's not
It could
really
have just been
singing
a
the character, she's
dance.
lip syncing, but it could have just been this like very beautiful dance scene that is further emphasizing that they don't need to speak with words to communicate and to express themselves to each other. And you could have still had the music in the background, but I just thought it was a little. I loved the scene for what it was and this like reference and ode to old Hollywood and the way that she was like watching these movies with Giles earlier on. But that was one thing that I had feedback for, where I was surprised to see that they went with a very vocal approach to it for their mute character.
Yeah, especially when there's also that scene where it's Annie or something. Not Annie, Shirley Temple. Isn't that
Yeah.
her name? No. Yeah.
Oh,
And she's doing
I
the little
loved
dance,
Shirley
tap dance
Temple
thing too. Yeah. Not Annie. She just also
on the
has curly
stairs.
hair. Did she play Annie? She
I don't think
plays
so.
Annie, I think, at one time. Anyway, whatever. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'm not an
She
Annie
played Heidi.
specialist. I'm not
Mm.
a Shirley Temple specialist. But no, I think that's an interesting choice. I think I mean, again, I can't speak for the disabled community because I'm not a part of it, but I think that there could have been a way, and I think this also would have pissed them off too, but it would have made a little bit more sense where like maybe because he has these magic healing hands, he like touched her throat and then she could sing or something like that. So it even made sense at all. Cause I was like, how the fuck I was like just being practical. Why and how is this happening? But I love that there was a dream sequence, but it
Yeah.
didn't have to be that. It just very easily could have been something
Something
else. The
else.
song could have just been playing and the lyrics could still be there because the lyrics were very beautiful and applicable. Um, but she could have just been dancing and someone else is singing and that's about it. Um, but I did really like how the amphibian man's suit looked in black and white, and I thought that was a fun nod to the OG creature from the Black
Mm-hmm.
Lagoon
Mm-hmm.
too, since that is a black and white film itself. Um,
I'm
but
just
yeah,
glad.
no, that unnecessary.
I'm just glad Guillermo del Toro got to film some part of this movie in black and white because he wanted to film the entire
Yeah.
movie in black and white, but it was too
Oh,
expensive.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad he didn't because I liked the blue.
I
I
love
like
the
the blue
colors.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
sparkles.
loved the
The colors
color
were
in
so
this.
good. Yeah,
The
colors are some of
teal,
my
the
favorite part.
green,
The
the bright
red.
green lime jello. Yeah, the pops of red, her lust shoes
Yes.
that she's like eyeing
The
and that she
Red
gives into
shoes,
when
headband.
she starts
yeah.
to like indulge. her sexy side of herself more
Yes,
freely
I
with a
love that she's like,
partner.
yeah, I'm getting the
Yeah, I
shoes,
fuck
bitch.
now. Um, but in terms of the disabled romance, I will say I think Guillermo del Toro's perspective was less like who would ever love a disabled, like I don't think he was coming from that perspective at all, so much as
No.
he was coming from a perspective of what kind of person would be open to a romance and allow themselves to explore a romance with someone who is so different from them in The Fishman. And I think finding a mute character who also has to find these other ways of relating to people who don't understand the language that she speaks, even though it is like
Mhm.
a real full language. I don't think they do. They only do like the finger spelling, I think, is standard American Sign Language, but the rest of it isn't necessarily. But I think I understand building a relationship around the amphibious man, how he came to the story that he did. And I think there are these very beautiful elements about it of like the people who are not allowed into society or are not given recognition and value in society and how they can start to band together regardless of the things that make them so different that should set them apart from each other, how being different is the thing that can connect them.
Yeah, no, I thought that that was a beautiful aspect of it is that they couldn't communicate with the average like the run of the mill person. Not everyone knows American Sign Language, unfortunately. Um but they could find a way to communicate with each other because they took the time to figure it out. So that I thought that was a beautiful thing that like showed the humanity of the amphibian man because he still has
Yeah.
humanity because he's a humanoid creature in many ways, and
But
it's just like he would take the time to see her personhood and take the time to learn to speak to her like anybody else should, and it just showed how I don't know. I really like that aspect of it, but I get where the disabled community is coming from on that for sure.
Well, because there's that
Um,
monologue too, which is a very powerful monologue when she's talking to Giles and she's like explaining like why this romance feels so potent to her, where she's saying like he doesn't see that I am different, he doesn't see what I'm lacking, and the issues that people had with that are that they were like, I don't feel like I'm lacking anything. I don't feel like I'm not whole, which is the language that she uses. And
mhm.
I think a lot of this is, Guillermo del Toro is not disabled himself, as far as I'm aware. He's
Yeah.
certainly not mute, at least. Um, but he also, this is a not a modern day film. This is a movie that comes from the 60s, and maybe people who were disabled in the 60s and alive and to really be able to speak to that experience, I don't know if they would have a different perspective or not than someone in modern day. But when you can't find community using the internet, when there aren't people in your immediate sphere to connect with, I can imagine that it would be a much more isolating experience where you're not necessarily
Uh-huh.
able to get the encouragement and validation that you are perfectly wonderful just as you are. Um, but
Yeah, I mean, especially and that's a huge theme throughout the this movie that we were talking about how everyone is being compared to the status quo, and so it makes sense that she also is being compared to the status quo or whatever, and will feel that sort of pressure because that's something. The whole thing is that like it's all of these people who are othered by society up against this like fucking waspy very small portrait of what they think an American person should look like, be like, act like. So I think
even Michael
it
Shannon, he
fits
does
into
that
that.
thing where he's like, I served my country honorably and I'm doing the nuclear family and stuff at home. You fail one time, that makes you a failure. And it's like, well, yeah, every time, if everyone has to be held to this perfect standard, the second
So do
you're not
you.
perfect, you're a fucking flop. So maybe we shouldn't hold everybody to an impossible standard, and maybe now all of a sudden that it's affecting you, you might want to look around and see how unfair it is for everyone else, even more so than the one time you failed, you're a failure. Like,
No, I thought that that was really a important part of the movie too, where he's like been being such a dick and like upholding this standard, and then he tries to get
Oh my
a
God,
little
you
bit
can't
of
meet it
sympathy, which he
either.
hasn't given to anyone. He hasn't given anyone an ounce of sympathy. But then he thinks,
Mhm.
oh, but I'm the exception to the rule. I should be able to get a little sympathy. No, bitch.
And none for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
it's
is a
interesting.
thought to go a little further back. Um,
Okay.
but I did love the amphibious man learning signs. Obviously, she is not deaf, and so she can hear when other people just like speak to her using their words. But the way that she is
Mhm.
able to communicate is through sign, and so I did love that he was the only person in the film. Giles understands, he can like read when she's signing, but he never
Mhm.
signs back to her or anything like that. And I don't know how well Zelda, I think, is Octavia
Yeah.
Spencer's character's
Zelda.
name. I don't know how well she understands signs or if she's just able to like talk enough that they're on the same page
Mhm.
regardless. But that he was the only person in the movie who signs back to her, I thought was
Yeah.
a beautiful touch.
No, I agree. I totally agree. That was such a great part of this movie. Ugh. Okay. Now the end. Real quick. Just real quick. What a whirlwind that just the emotion and the violence of the ending. Um, but I think it's so beautiful that like she goes through that metamorphosis with him, and I'm so glad that even though it's unrealistic, we do get like a fairy tale ending for them in many ways, where they return to the sea and they get to be together,
Well,
and she has gills.
well, it's really like another thing to talk about. It's like she actually isn't human this whole time. Like he has healing hands. When he touches her scars, he heals her scars and their gills. Know what I mean? So like,
She's not of this earth, yeah,
yeah, like
or of this
so
species.
and so it's like I think it's maybe why they have such a draw to each other. It's this weird, you know, I don't want to say animalistic, but know what I mean? Like kind of a little bit where they can like
It's
they
like kin seeing kin, you know?
but
You
like
just like see
they
something of
touch each other
themselves in
all the
each other.
time. Like they touch each other all the time. They like we see throughout the film she can only really have sex in the shower, in water, in all this kind of stuff. Like there's weird little
Or that's
That's
where she
hints.
feels
true.
connected to her
That's what I'm saying.
sexuality.
Like there's
Mhm.
weird little hints like all the way. And it is really nice that she gets to realize like, okay, maybe I'm not actually other and I have found like somebody that's very similar to me. He's just green
I'm
and
not
I
just
look
like
more human.
singular. Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's like seeing finally being seen for who you are and finding yourself, and I can see the detractors from that cuz like they want her to already feel whole, but it isn't an exact like it's like Sydney just said. She literally is a fish person too, and she's been
Like
living on land for her whole life, which is not where she was supposed to be.
it's a romance between two like supernatural creatures. One just looks more human than the other. Like one maybe fits into the standard of like she's still like she is still other, but she fits in more to like a stereotypical, slot than another one, right? Like
Mhm.
I
Beautiful.
also I'm open to a read where she is human but has a transformation at the end. Like obviously that she those scars are present the whole time, so if they become gills, you know, it's very easy to say they were gills the whole time and they were always meant to just be submerged. Um but I think the one of the other complaints that people had was that like they she dies. Of course she has to die at the end of the movie, but that's not what it is. I mean, I yes, obviously she does also die. Um, but I think,
But
you
she comes
know,
back to life.
she
she
comes
comes back
back.
to life and they get to be together and that's beautiful, gorgeous. But I also think it is sad. You know, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, of course the lesbians die at the end of every lesbian romance movie. Or oh, they don't get to be together at the end of every lesbian romance movie. That's classic. And I get how people get frustrated with that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But part of this movie that they really drive the point home is the solidarity for people who are both like you and not like you, um, and the way that that can help everyone, and the way it does sometimes come at like a great personal cost. And Giles isn't really ready to risk any cost at first when he's like, oh, change away from the Civil War protests, and like, oh, like, I'm out, I'm not doing any of this, you're on your own, until he has that moment. And I think the fact that she sees the amphibious man as a creature who deserves to live in their own right and by their own means and as they are without being like caged and blah 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 blah. The way that she is willing to risk her own life even to try and help someone else have that because she believes so truly that they deserve that. I understand that it is sad for people who just want to see a beautiful romance, which this is. But
Mhm.
I thought that that was very moving to see someone so committed to their convictions that she's willing to take all of these risks for this creature who she loves, and is like, I'll do anything to communicate to you that I love you, and it's mutual. So the way that he scoops her up and takes her into the water with him, I mean, he knows that he has these powers, but
Mhm.
I also love when Michael Shannon is like, you are a god, and it's like, yeah, bitch, and you
Mm-hmm.
were
Yeah,
gonna
bitch.
vivisect him, so what do you think is gonna happen to you?
Mhm.
The
You're gonna
word
get
vivisect is also
fucked.
just so good. So
I love
glad it got in.
that he had to bleed out through his throat too for Michael
Right.
Shannon. And he has to watch it all fall apart because he's
Yeah.
still alive. Damn.
What if the amphibious man had cut him and then healed him and then cut him again?
Just for funsies.
Just something to think about.
Could have slayed Guillermo.
Yeah, I am a god, and guess what? Choke on it.
Ooh, I really would have been overkill, but in a very cathartic way.
Yeah,
'Cause
what
that
In
if
a
bitch
different
deserves to
it
die.
movie.
turns black and white and then he sings it?
Mhm.
Well, does that mean we're ready for our segments?
Segmentos? I should have learned how to spell it.
Wait, I had one question for you, Monica, just because I was curious.
Yeah.
Um, when we have seen other recent movies, you have complained that bits of the very end were part of the primary marketing. And I was wondering if that was something that stood out for you with Shape of Water, where like so much of the primary marketing was like the very end of the last shot in the film kind of thing.
Well, I feel like with that one, it's not like that image in and of itself, like the poster isn't a reveal of anything. It's just them in the water looking like they're in love with each other, which is like kind of like the whole crux of
Mm-hmm.
the movie or whatever. So I didn't find that to be spoilery in nature. Whereas for Presents, they are advertising it with the reveal scene at the very, very, very end, which really fucking drives me nuts and crazy insane. Because that, like, you can, the thing that bothers me is when you can, like, remember that what you saw in the trailer during the
Mm-hmm.
movie and then it spoils it for you. Because that's happened to me a whole bunch of times. It literally happened to me with Companion. Like when I didn't even watch any of the trailers except for the teaser one, I still fucking figured it out because I like put two and two together because I saw one thing in it. But like that was still even fine. But it's that when they use like a scene and it's such a crux emotional scene and they're just giving that away, that pisses me off. But this was just an evocative image, and I think it's the perfect poster for this movie because it's a romance between the two of them. And you don't know if that's going to actually happen in the movie too, or if it's a dream sequence or anything. So didn't bother me. They feel distinct to me, but I get that that might not make sense. in real life. But in
I
Monica's
think it
head,
makes
it's
sense.
A-okay. Approved. How could this movie be gayer, though?
I think Giles and his little subplot with his old boss who fired him for having a drinking problem,
Mm,
as he
Yeah.
became redundant for photography instead. I think that I don't know if they ever consummated their love affair or anything, but I think they at the very least had sexual tension. And that was part of why there are so many hurt feelings around the fact that, oh, since you left, oh, since you let me go, there was something
I
there
feel
between
that for
them.
sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
mhm. The
I also
fishman
think,
could have been a fish lady.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think if it had been a fish lady, she would have been equally into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would have been. But it was 2017. The world wasn't ready for a fish lady and its bestiality.
They needed to wait a
They,
few
They
they
more
couldn't
couldn't
do
handle the
years
both.
for
lesbian
Chapel Rome's
bestiality.
casual music video.
Yep.
Seriously. Oh my God. Put that in the references. People need to know. I need to watch that again. I haven't watched that in a minute. Oof,
She's more
it's
mermaid than fish
so
creature, but still.
yeah, but the makeup is honestly well, she's got the gilly things. I love the makeup in that music video. It's so good. I mean, it's pretty gay already that we have Giles in there, which I
I love
love so
Giles.
much.
Right.
He had
A
things to learn, but I love him and he came around.
He came around. He is a white man after all in the 60s.
And we're all scared
But
sometimes.
yeah, he's got a lot to be afraid of too, just because you know who he is not accepted by society at all, and he hides away in his little room to protect himself from having to even broach that topic. You know, so I think he grows a lot during the movie. I would love a future where Zelda leaves that bitch ass Brewster behind
Mm.
and is a powerful lesbian woman or
Maybe she
bisexual
and
woman.
Yolanda get together. I felt like
Ooh.
Yolanda's whole thing was definitely jealousy that Eliza was Zelda's number one and that Yolanda was not Zelda's number one.
Yeah, I think I can feel a lot of that too.
You're
I
gonna
love
punch
that
her
for her.
card, but you won't punch my card?
It's not right. It's
Not
simply
fair.
not
I'm
right.
right here. Notice me.
Love
That's what's going
Notice
on
me.
there.
me,
Yeah.
Zelda. Love me. Choose me.
I also think the theater owner is gay.
Yes.
Mm.
I don't
I
remember
think
why I had that
Hofstetler's
thought,
gay too.
but that
Or
felt
is he
really right
just
to me.
Italian? Was he Italian?
I don't remember.
Gay
Is he
or
around
Italian?
still?
Porque no los dos.
Mm,
We've seen Call Me by Your Name. Are they Italian themselves? They're in Italy and it's gay. I don't know.
mm.
But I think that's the reason why I was thinking Hofstetler should be gay because, um, spoiler alert for the sequel to Call Me by Your Name. But like, there's like vibes from oh God, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I have to look at it again. Michael Stuhlbarg's character, the father of Timothy Chalamet's character in Calling by Your Name, there's vibes that he had like a queer past that he didn't act on. And the sequel book, just so you know, is all about after his, I don't know if he gets divorced from his wife or if she dies or something, but he has a little fun time being a gay older gentleman or a bisexual
Mm.
older gentleman. And that's what the whole sequel book is about. And I loved it. So maybe I'm bringing that energy
I
that
could see
Michael
Bob
Stolberg
Dimitri.
sometimes brings.
Yeah. And I feel like that would, he's a spy. He knows how to keep a secret. He knows how to lay low. He knows how to live a double life. He
Mm-hmm.
knows how to make it work being alone because he can't really make meaningful connections when he can't even tell anybody his first name, which he does give to Zelda and Eliza, which I loved. But I definitely can see a queer read for him.
100%.
Hmm.
Any other gay thoughts we'd like to share?
So many more gay thoughts.
No,
Chelsea
all
doesn't
right,
want to
that's it.
participate.
I
Nothing
don't have
from
a
Chelsea.
good
Okay.
bit ready, and I can't come up with something fresh and new every single time. So
You've had a whole week to think about it. I'm kidding.
I have had less than a week to think about it.
That's true. You've had several days. But anyway, that's fine. We'll take it over to Matthew Lillard and where would he fit into this film?
He'd play
And I think
Maynard
he
in The
would.
Many Loves of Dobie Gillis in the TV show that Michael Shannon's children
I
are
mean,
watching.
that's a pretty obvious one because he is Shaggy after all. But I was thinking he would be great as the guy who like was in charge of security before Strickland showed up, who's like nervous and stressed and
Mm.
running around with the
Mm.
mustache. I feel like he'd be
The
really
one
good
who's
in
like,
that role.
I immediately reported it.
Don't worry, I
Yes.
called the government.
I immediately
Don't worry,
reported this as
King.
soon as
I
it happened.
got it sorted. The exact wrong thing to do, actually. Thanks so much.
No.
Yeah, when Michael Shannon is being a bitch to his secretary and is like, well, tell them I can't come to the phone right now. Tell them I'm not here. And she's like, no, if you'd let me speak for 1 second, I would let you know the general is on site.
Oh, brutal. Any more Matthew Lillard placements that you feel strongly about?
Hmm.
So many more Matthew Lillard placements. He
Well, I mean,
can't
like he's
be
got the body
fish
to
man.
be. He's also slim and tall, but obviously
I
Doug
know,
Jones
but
owns that
Doug
role.
Jones supremacy.
I will say about Doug Jones, I was talking to Taylor about this movie, and I don't know if y'all remember a couple years ago that Alabama had to have a special Senate election because it was like voting between a Democrat and a pedophile.
Oh, Roy Moore.
Yeah. And our senator
Doug
was
Jones.
Doug Jones. And so I want to make that meme that goes around the 500 Days of Summer. It's like, oh, I love Doug Jones. And one of them's like Doug Jones. And then the other one is like the monster Doug Jones.
That's so funny. I support that meme.
Thank you.
I really liked Richard Jenkins' performance as Giles. I thought that he was very moving and was like a beautiful emotional light in the film. But I could see Matthew Lillard giving a very moving performance in that role as well, especially as he gets older.
Okay, yeah, I could see that too.
Guillermo del Toro had Ian McKellen in mind. Yeah, in mind when he like wrote that role. He would have
that's
slayed
sweet.
also.
I wonder if he turned it down or if he was busy because then IMDb trivia said he sent it to Richard Jenkins in an email saying, "I hope you love this as much as I do." So
I love it.
I
I
love
think
it.
that Richard Jenkins so good though. Ian McKellen would have been great too, but I loved him.
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, I can
toupee.
completely see how this was like a spot Ian McKellen was meant to fill, but I thought that Richard Jenkins was like very moving in this role.
Yeah. Totally agree. Okay. That leads us to Dumb Bitch. Easy. Strickland.
Yeah.
So easy. I love it when it's easy for once.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
right
the way
there.
he just keeps those black fingers on for as long as he can until he rips them off. That is crazy work. The way
can't
that
believe that's
he
it.
stomps on every person around him for not being a rich, white, powerful, able-bodied male, and then the second that the same standards are held up to him, he goes, "Me? Wasn't I already good enough? Didn't I already? What do you mean I have to continue to meet these standards forever? Yeah, girl, one day you're gonna get old, and one day you also might be disabled, and see how friendly society that you are contributing to is to you then.
Yeah.
Dumb bitch."
No, he just cannot think critically at all.
I loved when his car got smashed.
Yeah, that was great.
That was so good. I loved all the car shit. The car shit
When he was like,
so...
Giles was like, "Did I do that?
Oopsies.
Did I do that? So good. It's so funny. Okay, I think that brings us to our knives out of 5. So, okay, this was critically acclaimed.
Yeah. It sure was.
This was critically acclaimed.
The awards page on IMDb trivia like just kept going. So I didn't include everything, but for reference,
That's fine.
this movie has a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has 92% fresh from critics and 73% fresh from audiences. A little background financially for you. The Shape of Water is the top grossing Best Picture winner in 5 years. I don't know if it still is, but at least at the time that it came out, maybe. Top grossing Best Picture winner in 5 years, grossing over 194 million worldwide on a budget of approximately 19 million. So absolutely slayed it
Big
in that
pimpin'.
regard. And then just some proof that it is sort of a horror movie and gay. It was nominated for Outstanding Film Wide Release at the 2018 GLAAD Media Awards. It was nominated for Best Screenplay at the 2017 Bram Stoker Awards.
Ooh.
And at the 2018 Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films Awards, it was nominated for Best Director, Best Writing, Best Actress for Sally Hawkins, Best Supporting Actress for Octavia Spencer, Best Production Design, Best Editing, Best Music, and Best Makeup, and it won Best Fantasy Film. And then, of course, there are the 2018 Oscars, where it was nominated for Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role for Sally Hawkins, Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role, Richard Jenkins, Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role, Octavia Spencer, Best Original Screenplay, Best Achievement in Cinematography, Best Achievement in Costume Design,
Damn,
Best
it
Achievement in
went
Sound Editing,
crazy.
Best Achievement in Sound Mixing, Best Achievement
It
in
went
Film Editing,
crazy.
and it
Yeah.
won 4 Oscars for Best Achievement in Directing, Guillermo del Toro, Best Achievement in Music Written for Motion Pictures for its original score, Best Achievement in Production Design, and of course, Best Motion Picture of the Year. So
Yeah. Deserved.
it
I
slayed
remember
at
being
the
so
Oscars.
stoked that year.
I remember
I saw
like
it and I was like, that's the one.
a lot of people were like mad that it won too. Like it, well,
What were the
because
other
it was
hate
contenders, I
them.
wonder?
this was the Get Out year also.
Oh.
Like a lot of people thought that Get Out might win.
Oh, that would have been awesome. That would have been really cool. That's a tough year.
Oh yeah, that the nominees that year were Shape of Water, Call Me by Your Name, Lady Bird, Three
Get
That's good
Out.
Billboards
because I
Outside
also
Ebbing,
really
well,
wanted.
Get Out, Dunkirk, Darkest Hour, and one the Post Aguera Secret. I don't the Call Me by Your Name title is showing up in Spanish in these Google results for some reason, so I'm not sure if that other one is as it reads, but
How interesting. Yeah, no, that was a stacked year. That was a really fucking stacked year. So it's hard.
yeah.
It's really hard.
Well, and I
But
read
I'm glad
somewhere
it
that
won.
it's like it won like a
Phantom Thread.
majority.
That was one of the other ones that I read that was in Spanish. I don't know why I was sorry.
It won a lot with the older vote, like the older like voting members of the Academy, like a lot of their older members, and I was like,
Well, it has that appeal to old Hollywood, which
mm-hmm.
the Academy
Yeah,
does
that's
often
true.
like, and it
uh,
is also like an ode to the movies, which the Academy does often like, both with
That's true.
their like the characters watching them, but also how it is a callback to Creature from the Black Lagoon. So there's a lot
mm-hmm.
of Oscar bait in there for sure, but it is also very clearly an incredibly well made movie
Beautiful
that is like
film.
beautiful and moving.
Yeah. It can be
So
everything. And it
I
is
think they earned their
to
spot.
me.
The
I agree.
tragic
Completely agree.
thing about having a lot of really beautiful nominees for Best Picture some years is that there is still only one winner, even if
Yeah.
everybody deserves to win.
Totally. Well, who wants to go first with their rating for this movie?
I'll go. I'm gonna give this a 4.5 out of 5. I had a really great time with this. Uh, I'm glad we did it. I just, I don't know. I haven't watched like a romance movie in a long time. And I read
And this
romance
is
books
that,
all the
baby.
time, but like they're a little more aggressive than this.
They're fucking on the page, not behind closed doors.
Yeah. They're doing some weird things. I should go see what
They're
kind of
going
fanfic there is for this movie. I'm just saying.
Oh, I bet it gets crazy, girl.
AOC.
Here we go.
I
But,
bet
like,
there's fan fiction of Giles and the fish monster as
oh,
well.
of course
And
there
there should
is.
be. There
Oh,
absolutely should be.
Strickland and the
They
fish
had those
monster?
moments
You
of connection.
can't.
No, he doesn't deserve.
It's
That's
there,
so
though.
funny.
I'm sure it
He's
is there.
questioning his
They
nuclear
love
family.
the hate fuck.
I can't
But, like,
handle it.
this movie is so beautiful, and I'm like kind of upset that I haven't watched it in, a million years.
Well, I mean, you're here now, and I'm
You're
so
here now.
happy. I'm
I'm
so glad
also
we did Monster
happy.
Fucker February so we could get here.
I'm happy to be here now too, because I feel like it was kind of an oversight that I hadn't seen this movie before. I just wasn't really in like my movie going era necessarily back in 2017 or so. If I was going to the movies then, the way that I go to the movies now, I feel like I for sure would have seen it, but it just, kind of passed me by. But I have had curiosities about it. So I'm glad to have had a reason to watch it. I thought it was really, really beautiful, both to look at and like from a storytelling perspective. I just think I mean we said it in the beginning, but I think it is one of those movies that is not just great for being a background movie because it is gorgeous to have on screen and to have the score and such just playing in the background, but also because as challenging as it is to revisit the 60s and all of the oppression and marginalization that was very present there and be reminded that is very much still exists in our time now, it is still like this beautiful little fantasy world to visit and to like live with and live in as you just like have it up on your screen while you're doing other things. I don't know, I just think I could see it being one of those things where it's like I just want to be in the shape of water for 2 hours. Even if I'm not really watching the movie, I just want to be like living with the shape of water for 2 hours and 3 minutes, which is the runtime.
It's a beautiful 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Yeah, but I thought it was really lovely. So I'm gonna give it like a 4.7. I did have my criticisms that I have run through enough already, but I thought it was for what it was, I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I promise you I was gonna do 4.7 as well, but I'm gonna do the same one as you.
Oh my god,
Because of the same thing.
copycat!
I'm a copycat. I just thought it was a really good sounding score for this movie, so I'm a hanger on, as everyone knows. But I agree because I'm glad we talked about those criticisms of the movie because I think I remember that backlash at the time too
Yeah,
because that
because like
sounded very familiar to me.
one of them was an article, and then another was like a HuffPost interview with the author of that article. So I think that article must have like really made the rounds and like gotten buzz.
Because I think it was like a controversy around the movie and it's like like being a contender for the Oscar for Best Picture and that sort of thing. And I think it's important because it's hard to consider everyone's perspective when you're not living that person's life, but you need to be conscious of other people and disabled people's lived experience and how this could be super offensive to them, which I could totally see that. I could totally see how it could be super, super offensive. That said, there are so many other parts of this movie that I think are so beautiful and like you're just saying, so timely for today. I wasn't expecting to feel so much and to feel so affected and um it's beautiful to find a little fantasy even and a little love and a little romance and a little silver lining even amongst like during a time where things are so terrible as is right now. My therapist has been telling me to find glimmers and I feel like the amphibian man is a literal glimmer
He's
because he's
literally
glimmering.
glimmering.
Yeah.
He's literally glimmering, but like like there is space for some good in the midst of terrible things occurring. So you have to try to focus on that to keep your head above water or grow gills and just plunge down deep, baby, either way. That analogy worked out nice. I liked it. But I'm really glad we did this movie. And I would like to thank Guillermo del Toro personally for creating this beautiful, sexy character for me to emulate today. I feel really hot right now. And thank you,
You
Guillermo,
are
for
really
that.
hot right now.
Thank you so much. I honestly, I was like, I'm gonna look so ugly the whole episode, and I was like, no, actually, it looks really good.
Actually,
It
I'm
actually looks
so
really good,
beautiful.
and it dyed my skin. I'm pretty sure, so I'm gonna look like this forever. And so good that I like it because this is who I am now, blue skin and all. um, but yeah, that's the end of Monster Fucker February, which is
I'm gonna
so
miss her.
sad. I'm gonna miss her too. We want to do a little shout out really quickly to one movie that we almost did and didn't make the cut, and we want to do it eventually, but it wasn't quite a werewolf movie, and so that's why. But it was almost a werewolf movie, but we really wanted to include Your Monster in this month, but it didn't shake out this time. But if you haven't seen that movie, you should go see it. Melissa Barrera came out at the end of last year. Chelsea and I got to see it early, and it was really awesome. And we did a little TikTok about it, so we're passionate. We've been passionate. But it's a great monster fucker movie. If you're like, I need to see more monsters fucking, there you go. There's
That's
the
a movie for you.
recommendation
Yeah.
to keep it going.
And it's got Megan
But
Favey
the
in it. Who doesn't love her?
yeah. But our next movie actually almost was on the Monster Fucker February list as well, so it kind of fits anyway. So Sydney,
Well, Monica,
what?
Monica. What's Monica gonna
What?
be soon? A
Oh.
A
bride.
corpse.
Oh,
She'll be a corpse at some point, but she'll be a bride first.
a corpse. Chelsea's gonna kill me. This is a cry for help. Protect me from Chelsea. That reminded me of that vine.
Yeah,
What's worse than a
Child
child
than a
rapist?
rapist?
Rapist,
child.
child. No.
A child.
We're doing
Anyway,
Corpse
what's up,
Bride.
Sydney?
You haven't figured it out.
Yeah. This was part of an elusive trade that was done
Yeah.
so Chelsea could get double toilet trouble on the
Trouble.
schedule back in October.
I had
So
to
we're
agree
making
to
good.
do Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride. It was going to be our Valentine's Day movie, but they don't actually fuck in that movie, so it did get bumped.
Spoiler.
But
Yeah,
it's still on
spoiler.
the lineup. We're easing our way out of Monster Fucker Feb and into the rest of the year, I guess.
A month
So-
that
This
is
our
not
easing
themed.
out.
A
And
month that still
also
has
just
a theme later on, though.
Yes.
Just not up front
Yeah,
in the
no.
month.
Never fear. The ending of Werewolf versus Vampire seasonal depression event has not passed you by. It will
It will be
conclude at
celebrated
the end of
appropriately.
March. Exactly. So don't you worry. But in the next 2 weeks you'll get to be free from theme and just breathe deep of the horror well. I don't know what I'm saying. That made no sense. Anyway, what was the thing you said they should write in a 5-star review for us earlier? Something about men or
what
something.
happens when you're peeing and you realize you have to poop, but you're peeing standing up? You're at
As a
urinal
man,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
such
as a
thing.
man.
As a man, does that not do you not get caught by surprise when you're standing up the way that you might get caught by surprise when you sit down and you're in the posture all right? Like I don't know. Explain to us in a 5-star review.
Yeah, no.
Educate
Please
us.
give us the answer to
Mansplain
that
it to us.
We
in a
need to
5-star
know.
review. We need to know. We need the insider information. Or a 5-star rating will work too on Spotify. So, if you're feeling a little shy. Also, why not follow us on social media? We're at spooky_Tuesday on pretty much everything except for Facebook and Tumblr, where we are at Spooky Tuesday Pod. And then we might be on Blue Sky soon as Spooky Tuesday Pod, but not quite yet. So
Who knows?
watch this space. Also, why not check out our website? We're www.spookytuesdaypod.com. And also, we are on YouTube, which is the only place you can see what I did to myself for this episode, which is quite a bit. But anything for the podcast, I guess. I'll
I love
report
your
back if my skin
dedication.
goes back to normal. Honestly, it was really fun process. And I
You're
like that
cute.
I look like Lady Gremlin a little bit too. Because Lady Gremlin slays.
That's
Anyway.
so real.
And we're so close to our goal of 500 subscribers on YouTube. So please fucking just like, you don't have to watch it. Just like, please just hit subscribe. I really want to hit 500 soon. Can you hear my desperation? It's so important to be desperate on the
I think
pod.
you're playing it really cool and really chill.
It's super important to be desperate on the pod. Anyway, at the end of the day, I have to say thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye, Spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Great18. That's GR818_. And our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can follow on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's RyanBrommArt. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.com and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday.